What if I told you that Max Verstappen has been involved in a cheating scandal that has rocked sim racing, his beloved sim racing, and seen his team disqualified, and no one knows what's going to happen next? And I'm not even sure they should have been disqualified. I'm going to let you know everything that's happened, and I want to know your opinion, because I've raced Max Verstappen and we've crashed before, but I wasn't expecting this disqualification. So the iRacing Nürburgring 24 Hours is like the marquee sim racing endurance event. It was an event that Max Verstappen famously drove in last year, in between racing in the F1 at Imola where he won. But there has been a cheating scandal. It involves Team Redline, who are basically one of sim racing's most elite teams, maybe the most elite team, and they are part of the Max Verstappen family. Max Verstappen races for them. And what happened is there were viewers and competitors absolutely stunned when at the beginning of the Nürburgring 24 Hours, all three of the Team Redline cars taking part suddenly pulled off track right after race start in a move that was revealed to be a premeditated exploit. Now, I'm not saying cheat yet, I'm saying exploit. It wasn't a netcode glitch, it wasn't misfortune, it was definitely a deliberate strategy to bend, break, or take advantage of the rules. Now, this incident has since sparked so much outrage. Everyone in sim racing is talking about it. It covers sportsmanship, even the mainstream attention, sponsors getting involved, and maybe withdrawing as well. So in this video, I'm going to dive into exactly what's happened, how they managed to do it, the community reaction, and all the consequences that have followed. So, the 2025 Team Redline lineup for the Nürburgring 24 Hours was absolutely insane. Drivers like Enzo Benito, who's one of the most famous sim racing drivers in the world. So what happened is all of the three Team Redline cars, they start behind a pace car because they're going to have a rolling start, so on the straight before the Nürburgring 24 Hours. But what they did immediately is pull over and they towed. So if you know iRacing, you know this. If you don't, basically you can press a button in iRacing and you can get virtually towed back to the pits. That means on a formation lap, you actually save some time because you go forward straight to the pits. That doesn't happen any other lap. And I've done the Nürburgring 24 Hours in iRacing, and one of my teammates crashed and we had to tow, and you have to wait a long time, maybe 10, 12, 15 minutes for your car to be virtually towed to get back to the pit lane. So everyone's thinking, why have they done this? Why would you actually pull over when you've qualified at the front and then virtually tow to the pits? And this all comes down to setups, basically. A huge area of iRacing that a lot of drivers just don't get involved in. But all of the drivers I speak with in real world, I'm talking Formula 1 drivers, when I chat with them, they say make sure you're looking at setups. And this is what happened here. So the plan was that for Team Redline was to go around some minimum ride height regulations that iRacing have. And this is exactly how it works. So Team Redline gridded their car. So they gridded up on this formation lap for 24 hours, 24-hour race with rain tyres on, so the wet tyres on, and basically no fuel. Sounds weird, right? You 24-hour race start with no fuel and wet tyres even though it wasn't wet. So the choice for this is absolutely key, because the wet tyres have a slightly larger diameter because they got a slightly thicker tread, and the empty fuel tank makes the car lighter, okay? So both factors cause the car to sit a little bit higher than normal. So think about this. If you've got loads of fuel in the car, it's going to be pressing down and you're going to be sitting lower. And if you've got the wet tyres on, they're a bit thicker because of the tread. So this contributes to basically sitting up higher. So the Team Redline cars, now that might normally trigger some invalidations in iRacing, because iRacing, every time you try to grid up, it will check your car, do a virtual inspection, and check whether you're road legal or not. With iRacing, because they had the wet tyres on, it actually passed the inspection. So they were able to do something that was unusual normally. Team Redline were able to run a lower setup than normal because they were being bumped up by the tyre and the low fuel. So that meant they could run the setup lower as possible. And if you know anything about racing, running a lower setup means more downforce. It's just generally faster, especially in iRacing when you're going to be abusing all of the curbs. And iRacing has changed the floor damage situation. When I was iRacing back in the day doing their big 24 hours, if you hit a curb sometimes the wrong way, you could get damage, especially in the prototype cars. They've changed that at the moment, and Team Redline took advantage of it. So they tricked the simulator into thinking the car was at the minimum ride height, when in reality it was actually lower to be legal under race conditions. And then the race starts in terms of behind the pace car, and then they go into the pits to execute a planned swap. What they did, no surprise, they changed the wet tyres for proper slick tyres, and they refueled the car to full. And then you look at the car, and it's absolutely slammed. It's slammed to the floor. So now they have an advantage over every other car, because they have what would have been an illegal car if they'd started in this, but because they did the whole swap, it wasn't technically illegal. But remember, they do get disqualified, and they have better aerodynamics, better top speeds potentially, better cornering, and over a 24-hour race, that could be a massive time gain. I'm also surprised that they didn't let iRacing know in advance. They don't tell anyone, but we're thinking about doing this. Is this okay? What happened in reality is that iRacing responded during the race, and they don't often do this. There's been lots of exploits in iRacing, driving on the grass, driving on the apron, you know, all this kind of stuff. This time iRacing's chief steward jumped into the session, went into race control chat, and cited the sporting code. So didn't mention Team Redline explicitly, but cited two relevant rules. 8.1.4 cheating. Members may not cheat or otherwise engage in conduct deemed by iRacing to be in conflict with the spirit or the sporting code. And also 8.1.1.9 nefarious tactics. Drivers may not use nefarious tactics to gain an advantage in qualifying or racing. iRacing.com will determine what constitutes an advantage. So there is some discretion there for iRacing. So iRacing made it clear at that point, I would say, that they considered Team Redline were cheating and were acting against the rules. So what happened in the race? So shortly after all this intervention from iRacing, all three Team Redline cars, remember, they would have been practicing for ages. These are esports drivers. There's lots of money involved here. So all three Team Redline cars that had rejoined the race suddenly disappeared from contention. In fact, within a few laps, they'd all headed to the pits and they didn't return. They effectively retired. And the team didn't save the video for later viewing. And the replay vanished as well. So this is something that really doesn't look good. And I'm astonished that they didn't think of this beforehand. So what happened in the race results after the race? Well, the Team Redline cars were marked as disqualified due to the exploit, called out in the sporting code. So it doesn't matter that whether they tried to self-retire or not. It's clear that they were removed from the competition and the results for cheating. Now, iRacing and Team Redline haven't issued any formal public statements about this at all. I think this is, on the face of it, a bit surprising, but it shows there is so much going on behind closed doors. Maybe Max Verstappen is involved. Maybe Max Verstappen saying, I'm not going to do iRacing in the future if you're going to disqualify my team. We shouldn't be disqualified. Now, the question is now, what are iRacing going to do? I think it should be clear whether it's acceptable to do anything that's not strictly illegal or failing technology, or it's going to be okay. My opinion, I don't think that's really what's happened here. I think Team Redline should have given iRacing a heads up saying we're thinking about doing this, and this has been a terrible show for the viewers, a terrible show for the Team Redline fans. However, I do think that the fact that the towing means that you shortcut to the pits just takes this a little bit over the line. I'm shocked that they didn't think about how this was going to come across, because you're breaking a gentleman's agreement here. Everyone could do it if they wanted to. But enough of me talking. Max Verstappen has been involved in this cheating scandal. It's another cheating scandal in iRacing. There was another one recently where a driver was going to get damaged and they Alt F4'd before they hit the barrier to get towed back to the pits, and then they apologised. So there's too much cheating happening, but what's your opinion? Do you think this is cheating or not? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you next time.